Hi Fiber friends, welcome back to my channel. I am Kat and this is the Four Hooks, Four Loves podcast. This is where I like to talk about anything that I have been, knitting mainly, also crochet. Sometimes I get into some other things, other crafts that catch my eye, but usually it's knitting and crochet. So if you are new here, welcome. I'm so happy that you've chosen to, click on my video and see what I'm all about here. And if you are a returning viewer, thanks so much for coming back. I appreciate you so much. You have no idea. So if you are returning, you'll see that I'm in the same spot as usual, but I've been working on trying to fill in my space a little bit. I might change it around, I'm not sure. But I usually have this table here, but I usually have it in front of me and have the camera sitting on it. But today I thought I'm just gonna leave it behind me, and that way I can put my things on it instead of always having to bend down and pick them up. And anyways, I just thought it looked pretty too, and I wanted to be able to showcase some of the watercolor paintings that I've been collecting over the last couple of years. And my new little llama friend back there, he makes me happy. Okay, I have to stop saying let's get started. It's been a while since my last podcast. I last recorded in February, early February, and I was so gung-ho after that to keep going and like, okay, I gotta get another podcast out in another 2 weeks, maybe max 3 weeks, and then February just got away with me. Got away. And next thing I knew, it was March. And then I'm located in Toronto, Canada, and in March we have March break where the kids are home from school for a week. So leading up to March break, some of my kids got sick, and then of course that rolled into the week of March break because the other kids then caught what the kids had the week before. And it was just a mess. And then before you know it, I mean, here we are in April, and as if that's not long enough of a time span, it's the end of April. So I've got a few things to show you. I've been working on some garments, none of which are finished because I don't know, I've been like a little squirrel and not focusing on just one thing. I've been picking up older projects, I've been trying to start new projects, and I need to slow it down and get some things done. So I'm going to show you some of the things that I have been making between February and what is now nearly the end of April. So let's get started. We'll start with the first one. I'm sure everybody has probably seen and heard of and is sick of this, but I am not one to jump on a bandwagon right away. I'll see something I like, and when the time is right for me, oh, I'm so sorry, I just kicked the camera. When the time is right, I will then make it. So I am wearing today the Sophie Shawl by Petite Knit. And when I had first seen these, I was like, I didn't understand the big fuss. I wasn't into the little Sophie scarf, the little ones to tie at your neck, because I just don't like having things closed up by my neck too much. And then I saw the Sophie Shawl come out and I was like, oh, I kind of like that a bit better. But I still wasn't convinced. And then I was watching a podcast on YouTube called Knits by Mandy, I think. And she was wearing her Sophie Shawl in almost a similar color, and she had it just draped over her white shirt. And for some reason, that one caught my eye. And I thought, you know what? I have this blush yarn that's been sitting on my yarn shelf for quite a few years, and I didn't ever know what to do with it until that point when I saw that shawl, and I thought, I think that's a DK weight yarn, and I'm gonna finally try the Sophie Shawl because I'm gonna use it and I don't have to invest in any new yarn. I'm using up something from my stash, so that's what I did. So this is how I've been wearing it, usually on a white or a cream shirt, and just sort of draped over. Sometimes I just very quickly, like, I just throw it like this, and then I will do a little one like that if I feel like it. Sometimes I pull it up a little higher. Honestly, it just goes where it goes. I don't fuss with it. Yeah. So I'll take it off and I'll show you the whole thing. Here we go. It's actually quite long. It's quite long, or wide, long. I don't know. Anyways, it's much, much bigger than my wingspan of my arms. So let me get into the details. I knit the size medium. I did not make any modifications. The yarn that I used, let me grab the tag and show you. Okay, here it is. The yarn that I used is from a very old knit crate. Like, we're talking back in probably 2017, 2018. And they're no longer in business. I stopped subscribing to it many, many years ago, but all the yarn that I got from it, I still haven't made anything. Well, no, that's not true. One of them I made a hat, but that's it. So this was the brand Adeventure Wools, and it's Adeventure Wools Halo DK in the colorway Blush. So the composition of this was 50% alpaca, 30% merino, and 20% nylon. And I was really worried that the alpaca was going to feel a bit itchy on my skin, and I was right. It does. It feels a little prickly, especially when I get warm, but because I'm just draping it over a shirt the way I showed you, it doesn't too often touch my skin. Boy, that's long. Here we go. So let me see. Yeah, I usually just put the point downwards, and like a little nonna, I just throw it over my shoulders. Okay, and here we go. But I like it, and I think it looks really sharp. You know, it's just a casual look. Most often I'll wear it when I go to work. So let me see. I knit it using a 5mm needle. It took almost 2 full skeins of the wool. Yeah, so each ball of yarn was 236 yards. So they were 100-gram skeins, and at the end I had just, wait, I know I measured it. I weighed it, 8.9 grams of yarn left over. So it was almost perfectly, almost all used up. It didn't look quite the size I wanted it to be when I was knitting it. So I was really hoping, because I didn't block, or I didn't come on, cat words. I didn't swatch for this because I thought, I don't really care. I'm just gonna go for it. I was gonna knit one ball to the point where it finished, one ball of yarn, and then start on the next one. And wherever it took me, it took me. I really wasn't that concerned. So for that reason, because I didn't wash and block a swatch, I wasn't sure how this yarn was going to grow. And in fact, so the wingspan of the yarn after I blocked it grew between 7 and 9 inches. It varied on each side. One side grew about 8 inches wider, and the other side grew like 7 inches wider or something, or 8.5 and 7, something like that. And then from the top down to the center point, that grew 2 inches. So yeah, I started this February 22nd and I finished it March 6th, and I think I will probably make more. I have 2 more of these Knit Crate yarns that I had got in the Knit Crate in a blue, a nice tonal blue. Blue's not really a color that I gravitate to, but I was thinking it might be, I don't know what else to do with it. There's just the 2 skeins, I don't know. Anyways, and after making this, and it was such a nice mindless knit, I took this with me on a girls' weekend away to a cottage, and we had a great time, and I didn't have to think. I just, every time I made an increase or a decrease, I put a light bulb stitch marker, and that's how I kept track of how many I did. And it was easy peasy, and it is super squishy. So, that's my Sophie Shawl. I'm gonna put it back on, and then we can carry on with some other finished objects. So here in Toronto, we have not quite hit nice warm spring weather yet. Our spring takes forever to arrive. When it does, it is so short-lived, it almost feels like a week of spring and then you're into hot summer weather. I don't know what happened to spring or where it went. So right now we're in like sort of not quite super cold winter, but not quite spring. A couple weeks ago we had a very like fool's summer, or you could call it, not even fool's spring, because the temperatures reached 30 degrees. So it was a nice welcome change, but it wasn't gonna last, and we knew that. So it is back to rainy, damp, cold, 4-degree kind of weather right now. That's Celsius. So that's why I guess, I know I watch so many things and people are on to like knitting their summer like tank tops and things. I'm just not feeling it yet. And I know this is the time of year that I probably should have already started making those things so that they're ready to wear when that kind of weather hits, but I didn't. So the next one I'm going to show you is actually a pair of fingerless mitts called the Fire Pit Mitts. I always want to say Fireside Mitts. I'm surprised I got it right this time. Fire Pit Mitts. They're fingerless and they are by Taylor Earl. And Taylor has a podcast called Wool Needles Hands. She can be found on Instagram at Wool Needles Hands as well. And she's also the dyer behind Fiber for the People yarn, which I have not tried yet. The shipping, shipping, yeah, but also the conversion and everything to order from the States, I used to, and it just, the last year and a half or so, it's just gotten so bad price-wise that I just tried to find and work with Canadian dyers and local yarn shops. So hopefully one day, if the dollar corrects itself and when shipping is no longer so terrible, I'll get to try it. But I do really love this pattern. She has 2 options. One is a short one and one is a long one. I really wanted to make the long version because it gets cold here. And also for spring, which I just described to you, our springtime weather is chilly. It's not warm. So when I walk the dog, sometimes it's, or if I'm out for a walk, sometimes I just, like, I don't want to put on my big puffy winter jacket, but I'm comfortable enough in just oversized hoodie. And sometimes I just want that extra warmth around my arms and my hands, like while I'm holding the leash or pushing my son to the park in his little toy car. So I thought these were the perfect solution. And also I do plan on using them in summer when we are by the fire pit. So I love the way they just gather like this and then how they just roll at the top. So the yarn I used for these is Cascade Yarns Cascade 220 Heathers. Let me see if I can get that closer. There we go. And the colorway, do they have the color name on here? Was there a colorway? So the number, the color number is 9448. It's like a beautiful tonal olive green, which is exactly what I was going for. And I wanted to make them in something that is non-superwash. So this was the first time I've tried this yarn, and it is non-superwash, and I love it. It's so bouncy. The way it bloomed sort of and just filled in after I washed and blocked it was awesome. And they're super cozy. The only thing I have negative to say about this has nothing to do with the pattern. It's my fault. I think I probably should have I should have done better with my yarn management on this, because I only had the one skein of yarn, and this is a worsted weight yarn. Sorry, I'll tell you that. It's a worsted weight, 220 yards and 100 grams. So I should have done better in my yarn management for this, because I was like, oh, I'm knitting and knitting. I'm gonna make them nice and long. I followed the pattern, but I wasn't thinking that I was gonna run out for the second pair. And I ran out for the second pair, but I did not want to order more. You know why? All I needed to do was the thumb. So I'll put it on and show you. I stare at it and I look at it and it bothers me, but you know what? Whatever. It reminds me that that's the left hand and this is the right hand. There we go. I don't know, with all the light coming in through the door, you can't really see the color very well. So I apologize for that, but my son's in the other room and I didn't want to, he's got the TV on, so I didn't want to record in there. So what did I do to match this up? Well, you can see I did not match it, but I went down to my bins of yarn in the basement that I never use. Well, that's not true. I use them once in a while for making like toys and stuff. And anyways, I looked at my yarn shelf first and there was nothing, no color that really went very well with it. And then I remembered I had this camouflage yarn. It's an acrylic and it was by Red Heart. I think it was a Super Saver. And I had bought it years ago when I first started crocheting. And it had never been used. And I just needed this tiny little bit. And the green in it matched up with the green nicely. The only problem is that, well, first it's acrylic, it didn't, and this is non-super washable. So, you know, one's synthetic and one is real, not synthetic, natural, that's the word I'm going for. But the other problem is that it is quite a lot thicker. Even though they're both worsted, it was quite a lot thicker. So when I first knit it up using the same needles, which I used a 4.5 millimeter needle, it was just like the thumb it looked like my thumb was like super swollen up here. Like that's how fat it was. So I had to pull it out and I said, you know what? I'm gonna go down to a much smaller needle size. So I think I knit that instead of 4.5, I think I went down to a 3 millimeter needle. I went down quite a few sizes to get it to almost match up so that it doesn't puff out too much, and it still puffs out a little bit, but I'm fine with it. And because it was so much bigger, I didn't need to knit it up the same length as the pattern, which I learned the first time, because the first time I did it, it went right over my thumb. So I had to pull it out. And the second time I literally just like, I knit it up to where I thought it would match up, and then I bound off. I don't know, I feel like I'm all over the place explaining that, but I did what I had to do. It's not terrible. I wish they matched, but it is what it is. And they're gonna keep me warm, and I super duper love them. And I bought another ball of Cascade at the same time. I ordered a light pink one. My plan is to make the shorter version of the mitts in the light pink, so that I'll have a long version and a short version. And I really like them. I like how it gradually tapers in a little bit here. There's just subtle shaping. It's a really lovely pattern. So easy to follow. Highly recommend. So that is the Fire Pit Mitts by Taylor Earl of Wool Needles Hands. And again, I knit that on a 4.5 millimeter needle. I knit the size large because I feel like I have large hands, and the measurements were the size large would fit a palm that is 4 inches wide. And I wasn't quite 4 inches wide, but close enough that I didn't want to knit the medium and then feel like they were too tight. And let me see, anything else I wanted to say? It was a very quick knit. It was took me about 4 to 5 days to knit each mitt, each hand. But yeah, I took a break. Like when I finished one, I took a break for like a week before I cast on the other one. And this was another project that I had brought with me on my girls' weekend away. And it was very easy to just mindless knit, knit, knit and hang out with my girls. Anything else about this? No. Oh, I knit it on Magic Loop on a 22-inch cord. So those are my Fire Pit mitts. Okay. So I'm just looking at my little knitting book here. This is where I keep my notes about my projects. I love it. It says a lady never discusses the size of her yarn stash. Excuse me. I feel like a piece of alpaca just flew down my throat. I forgot my water. Okay, so the next FO that I have to show you, I feel like was a bit of a fail. I was not happy with this project. I don't know if I will knit it again. Let me get into it before I start saying anything else. So this is the Positivity Beanie. I don't know. I can't get the lighting right. I apologize. It's very bright. Maybe if I just hold it up back here.
I'm not sure I understand.
Oh, I'm not talking to you. So this is, I'll hold it up back here maybe. Like this? Oh, there we go. This is the Positivity Beanie by Tori Knits NYC. That's Tori U, and on Instagram you'll find her at Tori Knits NYC. I have been wanting to make the Positivity Beanie since the day it was released, and I never had the right yarn in my stash, and I didn't want to get new yarn. And then probably back in January, I saw Frankie Gray Fibers, who is a Canadian dyer. I'm in love with all their colors and everything they do. And they came out with this beautiful pink called Hibiscus and this lovely neutral color called Parchment. It's not quite white, it's not cream, it's parchment. Anyways, So I made it, and I was gonna make it for my daughter, and I was so happy. They're both fingering weight. And I was sure that the pattern said I needed fingering weight yarn. I was sure of it. And I'm still not 100%. I have to go back and check. I don't know if it says fingering slash, or if it says heavy fingering slash sport. Maybe that's what it said. So in my mind, I was like, okay, fingering. This is fingering yarn. I'll just use this. Well, the gauge was 26 stitches. And I measured. My gauge is 26 stitches. So I don't know what happened. I knit, which size did I knit? I knit the child size. Cause, okay, whatever it is, my daughter is 6, so I was knitting it for her size, and she's petite, like she has a small head. So I knew, like, I was just gonna knit that size. I knew I didn't have to size up for her. Oh, hang on, the groomer's calling me for my dog. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm back. I had to take that call. My dog is at the groomer, and that was the groomer telling me that she's ready to be picked up. So I'll go get her when I finish this. But anyways, positivity beanie. I'm positive that I did everything I was supposed to do. It came out way too small, way too small. Like my daughter, I made it for my daughter who is 6, she'll be 7 in November. And like, there's no way. Look, I'm so disappointed with it. I didn't even weave in my ends yet. Like this was made in February and it took me 2 days. February 20th, I started, cast it off February 22nd. Yeah, I made the child size and it does not fit my daughter. You know who this fits? My son. You know how old he is? 3. There's no way he's going to want to walk around in this pink hat, neon pink hat. I absolutely love the colors. Now, my options. I could frog it and use the yarn in something else. I could frog it and knit a larger size. But to be very honest, I don't want to knit I don't want to knit it in a larger size with this yarn. Like, I don't know what it is. I love the yarn, don't get me wrong, but I feel like if I knit it, like if I go up a needle size, there'll be too many gaps. It'll be too holey. I won't like the fabric. And if I knit a larger size, I still feel like it's too thin. It's not substantial enough. It's just floppy, and there's no way. Look how thin it is. You can see my hand right through it. There's no way that this will keep her warm for our weather. This would be good for like a spring hat, but that was not my goal. So I don't understand. Like my gauge was on, so I don't know. I kept my floats very loose. I'm not great with like color work. I usually avoid it. It just looks like one big hot mess to me. So would I knit it again? Maybe I would consider knitting it again with a thicker yarn. Maybe if I actually had a sport. I mean, would that even make enough of a difference from this fingering to a sport? Would that make enough of a difference that it would jump from, if I knit the child size, it would actually fit my 6-year-old and not my 3-year-old? That doesn't seem like enough of a difference in the weight to me. I don't even know. I'm so confused, and I hate wasting my time. So I don't know what I'm gonna do with this one. But in my mind, it's a fail. If I knew somebody in my neighborhood or somebody in my life with a little girl who would want to wear this, who's like a 2-3-year-old, I would give it to them. or heck, even a boy, like it does, but if they liked the color. My son wants nothing to do with that. He doesn't want anything to do with the pink. He's like, I want blue, I want green, I want purple, I don't want pink. Okay. Okay. My next FO. Guys, I started this back in October. And it was going so fast. I was doing such a good job. But then I got through the body and the hat and I put it aside and it sat on a shelf and it just stayed there for months until I picked it up again sometime in February. And I'll be back. Let me just see what this little dude wants. All right, so I'm sorry for the interruptions today. While I was at it, I went to get my water. So let's continue. We were talking about my little gnome. This is the Adeventure Gnome by Imagine Landscapes. So again, I started him, it was going great, and then I put him aside, and I don't know why I do that. All he needed left to do was his legs, his arms. Actually, no, I think his arms I had done. His legs and his beard, and no, maybe his arms too. And then assembling him. So anyways, I'm so happy with him. I think it's adorable. And it was really easy to make. The only thing is, I had to use DPNs. It was my first time ever using DPNs to knit. Usually I just use my DPNs like as cable needles. So I used them for the first time ever. I just watched a quick video on how to do them and it was so easy. Like I just zoomed through the body and the hat and the little pom-pom. So I stuffed this guy with, I stuffed his body with poly pellets to weigh him down since he has to sit there, on the edge of a table, or I have him actually up on my shelf in my living room. But I think he's just the cutest thing. So when I use poly pellets, I find an old sock, like I took an old baby sock and I filled the poly pellets inside and I tied a knot and then I put it inside the gnome and then continue knitting around him. So let me just get my book here and see what details I wrote down to tell you. So he was knit on very tiny needles, so not very tiny, but like sock needles, like 2.25 and 2.75. I made him using leftovers from a couple advents that I had. And I love that I still have, like he hardly uses, I can't speak today. He hardly uses any yarn at all. Like in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna need bigger balls. But then when I weigh the scraps that I have, they're more than enough for this. So I think I will make more, even though I wasn't crazy about knitting with the DPNs. I really wasn't. I didn't love them. I could do it, but I didn't love it. So he's so cute. So will I do it again? I think so. Again, we used 4 different colors. So I used this darker purple, the pink, this speckly one, and the neutrally one that I did for the beard, and then I alternated the stripes. So really, you don't need much yarn at all. For those 4 colors, I don't remember which one's which, but for one of them you only need 9 grams, 11 grams, 16 grams, and 7 grams. And the amazing thing about this pattern is Sarah has linked videos, tutorials that she has done for almost each step of the way. So if you're just not 100% confident, or you know, you're very confident, but There's a technique that you're just not sure what it's explaining. Like for example, for me it was the beard and the bobble nose. Like I really had to go and look at those videos. And when I looked at it, I was like, oh yeah, totally get that. But when I had to read it, I was like, I don't know. I didn't understand anything. So the video links in the pattern are so amazing. Very, very, very worth it for the pattern. So what would I do differently if I make him again or any of the other gnomes? I'll tell you right now. 2 things. 1, I won't do it before I get better DPNs. I have a cheap set that I had bought from Amazon. There's like, I don't even know, there's like 100 DPNs of all different sizes. And there's some sort of wood, but they're so, especially the little ones, the tiny ones, they're so skinny. Like, I just feel like they're going to break. And in fact, a couple of them did break on me. So I feel like they're just gonna snap in half. And they just weren't quite sharp enough for me to get into the tiny yarn in certain spaces. So, and they were too long. They're like this long. I think I want something maybe like a 5-inch DP. Is that 5? I don't even know. I think I want something more along the 4 to 5 inches, not the really long ones that I have. But in terms of the actual knitting, what I would do differently, I won't stripe them. No. It was awkward enough trying to work with the fingering weight yarn and the tiny DPNs, but then you throw striping into the mix and I'm just like, oh my God, there was string everywhere and needles everywhere, and I'm trying to do one thing and the DPNs are falling out, and I'm just like, if I could have just knit in one color all around and didn't have to stop for the striping, it would have been 100% better for me. That's for me. Other people might feel differently, but that's for me. I did not like having to switch back and forth. I feel like it slowed me down, and I was already slow enough because of the DPNs. So I don't think that that's a big negative. Like, I would be very happy with another gnome who's not striped. Like, I don't think the stripes are really necessary. I think he'd look cute even without the stripes. So I do want to make more. My husband laughs because I have gnomes everywhere. I love gnomes. And he's like, every time I come home with a new gnome, he's like, what? Where are we gonna put this one? So cute. Anyways, great pattern, cute little dude. I've seen people making the same pattern and following the same instructions, but just using bigger yarn, like a DK or a worsted. And they're adorable. I mean, they come out bigger, but they're so cute. And to be honest, when I saw the size of him, like, I was a little shocked because in my head and from the pictures, like, I would have thought they would be a bit bigger, but I think it's just, I can't even speak. I'm just making these little tiny cute baby sounds, which are probably really annoying. Awesome pattern. We'll just have them sit there and watch us. Okay, so the rest of the things I wanted to show you are not projects where I had to write down notes. So I finished for myself a pair of socks. That's one. I should put them on my blockers. I'll go get it in just a second. Okay. All right. Sorry, they were just on my dresser, so I just had to reach over for them. So this is yarn that I got last year from a Canadian dyer called Comfy Cozy Knits. That's where you can find them on Instagram at Comfy Cozy Knits. And she makes a lot of sock yarn and does a lot of self-striping as well. And when she had shown this colorway, my friend tagged me immediately and she was like, we need this. And I said, you're sure? What was I just saying? You're sure? I was like, we sure do. You are absolutely right. We sure do. So I got it right away. This colorway is called The Beat Goes On. And it just reminded me, especially the name, of the 80s, which is when I grew up, 80s baby. And I just did a vanilla sock. That's all I do. For socks, I just use socks as my mindless knitting. I have no interest in making patterned socks. Maybe one day, but for now, I do not. Now, normally I do a 20 row cuff, what do I do? Normally I do a 20 row cuff in 2x2 rib, and then I do usually a 45 row leg. I have no idea why when I was making these, I had it in my head for some reason that I make 60 row legs. So I made 60 row legs. Thankfully, I had enough yarn to finish both. This skein was actually 115 gram skein. It did not come with the accent color. It didn't come with a mini. That kind of irked me a little. I don't know why I didn't notice that when I ordered it. I like when they have coordinating minis, but I had this in my stash, this light purple color here. And this was a Ken Yarn color called Telekinesis, which I bought a few years ago, and I used in my shawlography shawl, my Stephen West shawlography shawl. And I think it just goes perfectly, right? Look at that. I think it's a great accent color. Anyways, so these socks are different from my usual in that these are 60 row legs, and then I'm a size 10 foot, so I knit until from the back of the heel to the start of the toe measures 8 1/4. Yeah, until it measures 8 1/4, and then the toe is about 1.75. It's just your standard rounded toe, wedge toe. I don't know. Just a regular toe. I follow the pattern. When I started, I followed all the instructions from the Crazy Sock Lady on her YouTube video, how to knit socks on, vanilla socks on 9-inch circulars. That is the pattern that I follow. I'm excited for these. I really like the color. I love how the striping, I love how it's just like, it's like a tonal stripe and then this variegated stripe. But what I really love is that there's not a definite break between the stripes. There's one thing I really hate about self-striping yarn is when you clearly see the break in between the stripes. And so if the stripe ends like here, then you see that difference midway in the transition to the solid stripe. And I don't know, it bothers me. And I feel like I usually order all my sock yarn from Lollipop Yarn, and I have a bunch waiting to be knit up. And the reason I like her yarn is I feel like her transitions are amazing. You don't see that break in between the two stripes. So I was nervous when I started these because the different dyer, you know, but I kind of had a feeling I would end up liking it because this stripe is more of a variegated, so it kind of blends in with the tonal of the purple stripe. So those are my latest socks. Again, the colorway is The Beat Goes On by Comfy Cozy Knits. Last time I checked a couple weeks ago, she still had this color in her shop. Okay, that is the end of my finished objects. I have no idea how long we are because I had to start this a few times. I'm sorry. Okay, but let's get into the WIPS. I'm just gonna have a sip of water. All right, one of my WIPS is the Ariana Cardigan. It's a crochet granny square cardigan. I was wanting to do some crochet. I've been wanting to pick up some crochet again, but I didn't want to do toys and I wasn't in the mood to do like corner to corner. And I'm really not a blanket person. So I was like, what am I gonna do? And then I saw this cardigan. I'll see if I can put in a picture. And I decided I wanted to do it. So I picked up the yarn. I'm just using some woolies that I had some woolies in my stash, so I just had to top up. Okay, no, that's not the way it went. I had some woolies in my stash, Lion brand wool ease. It's an 80% acrylic, 20% wool. It's the worsted one. And what happened is I had some in my stash. I had like some beige and some brown, and I don't even know where I got them from. Like, I don't remember. I think I had them with the intention of doing a market a few years ago, and then I never made anything with them. So long story short, I didn't use those colors. I went to the store. I went to Michael's, our big box yarn store. I went there to get more of those colors to make the cardigan. But when I was there, I saw these colors, which I liked much more. And so I decided that I would get these instead. So what do we have here? The pink, I believe, is called Blush Heather. The brown was Thrush, and the silvery gray is Icicle. Okay, I mean, there's not much I can show you because the cardigan is not done. I'm doing the smaller size. There's two sizes of the cardigan, so I'm doing, I think there's one that goes, there's one size that's for small, medium, large, and then there's another size for extra large, 2XL, 3XL, I think. So for the smaller one, which is the one I'm doing, you need 46 crochet granny squares. So I did it. I made 46 crochet granny squares. And then you needed some granny square triangles. So I made all the ones I need for that. And then you needed a couple of these, I don't remember what they were called. They're like half a triangle, quad triangles, I don't know. So you needed some of those. So I have been spending a few days this past week weaving in all the ends. When I started this project, I was like, I'm gonna weave in the ends as I go. Then I'm not gonna be stuck at the end. I'll just jump right into you know, putting them all together. So I was good. I did about 15, the first 15 squares, I wove in the ends as I went. And then I was like, that's for the birds. So I put them aside and I just kept crocheting and throwing them in my bag and making more and throwing them in my bag. And anyways, long story short, we got to the 46 granny squares. We did all the triangles. We did the quad triangles, whatever you call those. And I had to weave in all the ends. So I've gotten through about more than half, much more than half. All I have left is about 20 squares left to weave in the end. So let me tell you what hook size am I using for that? Oops. So these are the suckers that need to still have the ends woven in. I know, it's a lot, but I'll do it. Okay. And I am making them with an F hook. What are you doing? Okay. I am so sorry. Again, I had another little interruption. You know what? Okay, I don't know if this is TMI. This is my youngest child who keeps making his appearance. And we started toilet training him last week. I know I'm very late to the party with this one, but you know, I was on it with the first 3 kids. By the 4th, I'm tired. I just didn't want to go through this again. Anyways, it's got to get done. He's doing a great job. And this is the first time since we started last week. These last 2 interruptions was the first time he came to me and told me he has to actually go pee-pee on the potty. So I'm sorry for all of you people who are not in this stage of life and have no interest in children, but that was a big deal for us. So yay, Ben. Okay, yeah, so I'm really excited to get these done. I really want to finish weaving in the ends on the other ones because I've heard that assembling them together and crocheting them together, I've heard people say that the instructions and the pattern are a little bit confusing or difficult, so a little bit nervous about that part. I have like a really pretty neutral sort of a beige color. I don't have it with me here, but that's the one I'm going to connect them with. So you connect them all, and then when that's all done, the neckline, like the neckband, yeah, it's not a button band, there's no buttons, the neckband, anyways, that's knitted. So this project will be a combination of both knitting and crochet, which I am super stoked about. All right, so that was my first whip. My second whip, I will show you right here. So if you have been around here for a little bit, you will know that at Christmas time, sorry, I got confused for a second. At Christmas time, I made some knitted socks for my nieces who are 18. And I wasn't sure how it was gonna go. I don't often knit for people. I don't really know. I usually just knit for myself, probably selfish reasons, but also I just get nervous. I'm like, I don't know if people are gonna appreciate it or want something handmade. So anyways, we got them for Christmas, like some really cool running shoes. And I was like, I'm just gonna put a pair of socks in there with them. And I used lollipop yarn to make them. They were beautiful socks and they loved them. They loved them and they wear them a lot. So they were over last week at my house to celebrate my oldest son's 11th birthday. And we were talking and their mom said, you know what? The only request they had for their 19th birthday, which is coming up in May, is more socks, like more hand knit socks. And I was like, oh, really? Like they actually like them? And then one of them was there and she's like, I love them. I wear them all the time. She's like, I wish I could have so many more. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. I'm like, I wish you guys gave me more notice because again, I told you, like I mentioned, I really love to order from Lollipop Yarn, but there's no way I can order some for them and have it arrive here in time to make it for their birthday in the middle of May. So I know I said I have some for me that I was going to use, and I debated using it to make for them, but they're not colors that I think they're gonna love. So I went through my stash and I was like, okay, what can I put together? What do I have enough of in terms of the weight? What do I have enough of to make socks? So I found this one. This is called Club Tropicana by Spectrum Fiber. It was an 80/20. And I found this one also by Spectrum Fiber, and this is called Strawberry. And I've had this strawberry yarn for a while. This was from a neon club that I was part of and I was receiving monthly. And I got it, I think, either in 2020 or 2021. And I tried putting it into different projects here and there, and I just didn't love the shade of pink. I put a little bit into my shawlography, and the one like strip that I put in, I stare at it all the time when I wear that shawl because I'm like, I don't like that color. And I love pink. I don't know what it is about this particular shade of pink. But when I put these two together, I thought, oh, these might work. Not a high contrast between the cuff and the body, but enough. So I did that and I decided, I weighed it and I was like, I'm just gonna make shorties because I think that's all I can manage out of the ones that I had. So I literally only have to Kitchener the toe on this one, and I haven't done it. Okay, but to be fair, I finished it like at nighttime and I didn't want to Kitchener it and risk making a mistake. So I left it. I'll do it today sometime. So here's the shorties. I hope are these too long for shorties? Here's what I did. I cast on, for them, they have smaller feet than me. So I cast on, let me see, for this twin, they're twins. For this twin, she's like a 7.5 shoe size. So for both of them, I usually cast on 56, but I wanted to do a 2x1 rib for the cuff. So I cast on 57. And then in the first row of the body, I just decreased one. I did a knit and then I did an SSK to go back to 56. So for the cuff, I did 10 rounds cuff, and then I did an 18 row leg. So 10 rounds cuff, 18 row leg, slip stitch, heel flap, heel turn, and then I went into the gusset, and now we got the toe. So what do you think? I know they're not on a blocker, so they're weird right now, but I think the color is really pretty. I was really worried that there was not going to be enough of a contrast between the accent color and the mane, but I think there is, and I think they're gonna love it. And my husband was like, shorties? What do you mean? What are shorties? Is that like you're gonna knit it for them without the foot? And I said, what is that? It's not even a sock if it has no feet. He's like, you know, like fingerless mitts. I was like, what, toeless socks? I don't know. He seems to think they're a thing. Maybe they are and I haven't heard of them. But I was like, that's not even a sock. That's like a foot warmer. I don't know. Anyways. So next time I will hopefully have them both finished to show you, and hopefully have started on the next pair for the other twin, which I'm going to use the leftovers I had from this one. So same exact color, but shorties for the second twin. Uh-oh, I knocked my plant. There we go. Okay, so those are the socks. Oh my gosh. So this WIP is living in my 80s cartoon theme bag, which I made myself and totally love. And this WIP, I am just totally 100% in love with. This is the Diaphanous Raglan by Jessie Made of Jessie Made Designs. So on Instagram, you find her at Jessie Made Designs. I think so. So this is the Diaphanous Raglan. it's getting there. I have to just finish the bottom ribbing. I have about 2 inches left, maybe 1 inch. I don't remember where I left off last time. I want it to be 4 inches. So I have that left. And then I have to pick up for the neck and do the neckline. And I have the sleeves, and the sleeves I'm super excited to finish or to work on them because, so the sleeves are sheer. They are just the mohair with the sparkle. And then the rest, the body, is the mohair, the sparkle, plus the fingering weight. Okay, so what do I have to say about this? Have I made modifications? Yes, I have. Okay, so let me just pull out the pattern because I'm not going to remember. First thing I am doing differently is, I think I had to knit it on smaller needles. Yes, my gauge was not the same as her gauge. So she recommends knitting on a 4.5 millimeter needle. I am knitting on a 3.5 millimeter needle. So I guess that means my stitches were too big. So maybe I was knitting looser. I needed to knit smaller. So I knit the body on a 3.5 millimeter, which meant for the ribbing, she recommends for the ribbing 3.5 millimeters. So for the ribbing, I went down to a 2.75 millimeter. And I really like how it's looking. I'll show you another close-up in a minute. So the other thing, so it calls for, yeah, it calls for mixing, holding fingering weight and lace weight together. So I'm holding fingering weight, lace weight, and a little ball of sequin yarn together. So I'm holding 3 strands together for the body. And then for the sleeves, it'll just be the 2 strands. So what am I doing differently? Okay. I wasn't sure if I wanted the waist decreases or not. I didn't want to leave it completely without any decreases. And so I went down a rabbit hole looking at everybody's projects on Ravelry and reading everybody's notes. And I came across, what I noticed is I didn't like the ones that had no waist shaping at all. But I didn't want full waist shaping because I didn't want it hugging me. I didn't want it too cinched. So what I did was I came across Ponder and Ply project page by Ponder and Ply. And I liked the way hers looked. So I read the notes, and hers said that she didn't do any of the waist shaping until she got down to just before the ribbing. And the row right before the ribbing, she did a rapid decrease to get down to, I guess, the waist size that she wanted for the ribbing. So what did I do? I tried to do something similar. I didn't want to do absolutely no waist shaping. So what I did is after the sleeve separation, when the waist shaping starts gradually, I did 3 rounds of waist shaping, just 3. So that means I decreased by 12 stitches. And I kept knitting in the round with no decreases after that. And then I got to right before the row, right before the ribbing. And you'll see I put in all these stitch markers around here, all these light bulb markers. I had that in there just so I would see. So everywhere there was a light bulb stitch marker, I had done a decrease. So I decreased, let me see. I had to decrease for my size and for the amount of inches around that I wanted the waistband to be. I decreased down, I decreased down to 174 stitches. So that means I had to decrease 42 stitches, which was a lot. So I had to do that. The other modification I did is I didn't want this super cropped. So what I did is from the sleeve separation, in the pattern, according to the pattern, I'm knitting the 3rd size. And so if I had followed the pattern, I would have had to start the ribbing at 5.5 inches after 5.5 inches of knitting. But what I did is I kept going until 7.5 inches. Was it 7.5 or was it 8? I'll have to remeasure. I think it was 7.5, but for some reason my brain is telling me 8 inches. Anyways, and then for the ribbing, I am doing 4 inches of ribbing. I know the pattern says less than that, but I'm, yeah, I think what I'm doing is I like about a 12-inch length in my garments, so I'm pretty sure that I am doing, I can't find where I need to look here. I'm going back and forth. Every page is upside down here. Yeah, the ribbed hem calls for roughly about a 3-inch ribbed hem. And so for my size, the 3rd size, it would be a total length from the underarm would be to the waist, to the bottom of the ribbing would be about 8.5 inches. That was way too short for me. So the body I knit to 7.5 inches. I'll remeasure that, but that's what I think. And then for the ribbing, I am aiming for 4 inches of ribbing. Yeah, and that was a lot of knitting on tiny needles. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah, and I'm doing the 3rd size, the medium. And I'm very happy with it so far. I'm super duper nervous that it's not gonna fit, or it's not gonna fit right. I don't know. The only part, I don't know if you can tell, and I'm hoping that this will block out, but can you see the difference between where I was knitting flat? Because you start off knitting flat and then you join it together after this little V. So I had a lot of rowing out. I'm not sure. I'm trying to make it so you can see, but let me see if I do this, if it makes it a little bit more visible. You can kind of see there. Ooh, I caught a little shimmer with the sparkles when the light hit it, but now you can't see it. Anyways, so up here, like this triangular part, it just bothers me how it's rowing out and it looks different. It doesn't look as smooth as the knitting in the round section. I don't know what I was doing wrong. I think my pearls were tighter than my knits. And I think to fix that in the future, it would have to be a matter of changing the needle size each time you knit, like every other row. But do I really want to do that? No. I'm kind of lazy when it comes to that stuff. So I'm hoping that after washing it and blocking it, it'll all just kind of smooth out a little bit, and a little bit of rowing out is not a big deal. So I didn't tell you what yarn I'm using. Apologies. Okay. The sequin yarn is Lanagatto Payette in the colorway 8599. Lanagatto Payette in the colorway 8599. Then, where is the other tag? The mohair is Shibui Silk Cloud in a white. I've had that for quite some time. It was the only Shibui Silk Cloud I had ever purchased. I love how soft it is. I really think because of the high silk content, there's like 40% silk in that. And I'm really hoping that it won't itch me and bother me based on that high silk content. And the body color, the body yarn is made with this. This is Autumn and Indigo. It's 100% superwash merino. It's a single ply, 400 yards per 100 grams. And it's the colorway Whisper. Whisper. Okay, so far I am on my second ball. I am on my second ball of this, and I'm nearly done the ribbing, and then I'll only need the rest for the neckband, because after that the sleeves don't use this anymore. So I have a feeling that, yeah, there's no way, like my second ball, I literally just started my second ball for the ribbing. So I don't even think I'm gonna have to dive into the third one. Might be pretty for some other project, a shawl or something down the road. And I know everyone says not to make garments with the single ply yarn, but you know what? That's what I had. It's the color I had that worked, and I'm trying to use up what I have. And I think because I'm holding it combined with the mohair and the sequin yarn, I think it's not going to be an issue. So, and that is all being knit on my Xiaogu needles. Everything I knit is on my Xiaogu needles. So, it's been a long time already. I don't know if I should show you my last WIP or wait for the next one. Oh heck, I'll just show it. Okay. So, I picked up this project that has been sitting in the corner collecting dust since probably November. So every year I get all caught up in the hype for the West Knits MCAL. And after I finished my shawlography last year, I was like, I am not doing another one. And then again, FOMO, and I didn't buy the yarn. I used what I had in my stash, but you know, I got caught up. And I started making it, and like everyone, this part nearly killed me. So much starting and stopping. I was like, why am I doing this? I wasn't enjoying it. But I do really love how the colors are all coming together. So last week I picked it up and I finished. So when I had started it, I was on this purple cable strip here, and I was only about a quarter of the way into it. So I finished knitting that whole strip. Okay. And I started attaching, woo, oh my gosh, there's cords and holders everywhere. So what I did is you start attaching these stripes. Maybe if I hold it like this, I can't even hold it. I need someone else to hold it for me. So you start knitting these stripes. So I'm alternating the pink and the gray, and you connect them with this strip along the way. So this strip here is actually decreasing in size. These stripes, it'll come down. So it's actually moving along pretty quickly. I put it down. I haven't knit on it in about 4 days, but it's moving along pretty quickly. The instructions and the patterns say when you finish knitting this strip to go on and knit the same one on the other side, but I needed a break from it. I needed a break. I needed something new. So that's why I went straight into knitting the stripe section and connecting it. It just makes me feel like I'm moving along a little bit faster. So I am really hoping that maybe at least by the end of May, I can have that done. I can't even hold it all up to show you. So what yarns am I using? I don't even remember. I don't know. I'll have to check my bag if I have it in there. The gray one was a knit crate. And I'm so happy I used it. When I got it, I was like, ugh. And I threw it on my yarn shelf. I didn't like the way it felt at all. And I read the label, it was non-superwash. It felt so rustic and itchy or like scratchy. And then I pulled it out to match up, as I thought it looked beautiful with this deep purple and this pink color. And I thought, oh, I'm just gonna try it. And that knitting with this gray yarn is what made me go and get the non-superwash yarn for these mitts, because knitting it up, oh my goodness, it is so bouncy and squishy. It makes me want everything this bouncy and squishy. So let me see. Do I have it? So the gray one was La Brevis by Knit Crate. And it is 40% Peruvian Highland wool and 20% nylon and 40% merino. So that was that one. Then this purple one is a Cozy Posy Yarn Co. It's called, I don't know the colorway name, but it is 70% merino, superwash merino, 20% cashmere, 10% nylon. Okay, and this last one, oh, doesn't have a tag in it. The pink one, I believe, is Fiore by Explorer Knits. Okay, so I am hoping by the next time that we will have at least this section completed, so that that little strip won't just be hanging down. It'll be completed. And then I'll have to start the next one on the opposite side. And I am going to do the quick finish for this one. I'm not doing the points down the middle. I'm just going to do the one section that anchors down these loops and call it a day. Okay, let's put this one away. That's done. I think, guys, I think that's all my WIPs. That's everything. Well, not true. There's some other things I have, but I haven't worked on them. So, well, I have like a month ago, but not recently. So I'm not gonna show you. I'll show you in the next one when I make some progress. So I'm hoping that next time I'll have a lot more progress done on my Stephen West shawl and my Diaphanous Raglan and some other things that I didn't bother showing today. So I hope you're all doing amazing. I have missed you. I have wanted to record a podcast daily, like for I don't even know how long now, but something's always come up. And I'm so happy that I had enough energy and was in the right headspace today to do it. I hope you liked seeing what I've been working on. I hope you like my little space here. I think it's really cute. And I will hopefully have another podcast out for you soon. I can't make promises because life is just like that and throws things at you, but I'm really hoping. So I'm gonna do my best at that. I would love it so much if you guys have liked what you've seen. If you can leave me a comment, tell me what you like the best, tell me if there's anything that I've inspired you to make, or if you have any suggestions on things that I might want to try out. And, you know, all the YouTube things. If you could subscribe, gosh, that would help out so much. I would really like to grow this channel. I know it's partly my fault that it hasn't been growing how I would like it to grow, and that's because I have not been consistent with recording. You know, injuries take a toll on you. So I am really going to hope and keep my fingers crossed that things keep moving in a positive direction and that I can put more energy into this channel. If you can help me out and, you know, subscribe, hit the notification, hit the like button, the thumbs up, that helps so much too. Yeah, and I guess I'll see you next time, friends. All right, until then, happy knitting.